Hey guys, it's Dr. Jennifer Otter Bickerdike, and today we have literally somebody with us that I've been stalking. And no, it's not Boy George. Zoe, I've been desperate to get a hold of Boy George.
I know.
I tweet at him all the time.
He told me.
He probably would have. But
He's terrified.
I don't. Now that you've seen me again, you can understand why. But I have Zoe Alexander with me today, so it's absolute pleasure. I have so many things I want to talk to you about.
Right.
And let's just start off with, give us the 2 bullet points so we can dive more into it. What is your involvement now in the music business?
So my involvement now in the music business is I put on a live music event called A Peaceful Noise. It's an annual event. I'd say it's an annual event. We're coming up for year 3. I think that makes it a bona fide annual event, right? We've done 2. So
this is in London.
This is at the moment. It's in London. We've had 2 shows in London, and A Peaceful Noise was. It was a response to an incident that happened in our family. My brother was killed in the Bataclan terror attack in 2015. And my brother was working for Eagles of Death Metal on the night. He was a touring guy. You know, he'd worked in the music industry for about 15 years, but on the road, always out with bands. So in that attack, he was selling merchandise for the band, and he lost his life. So...
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a quick second. Okay. I mean, I can't even imagine. When you heard about that, did you know he was there at that gig?
Yeah.
And how long between when you heard that it happened and you found out what had happened to Nick? What was
about 4 hours, I think.
Oh my God!
It was. I mean, you know what the world's like now. We have 24-hour news. You know, everything is there for you live to see unfolding. You know, which is a really surreal and strange experience. I'm sure everybody can remember watching bits of that footage and watching it unfold and sort of knowing that you knew somebody and somebody that you love dearly is inside the building was a very strange experience. But obviously, as soon as we kind of knew he was there, or what was going on, we knew he was there. We kind of shut down the media coverage, and you know, then you have to deal with stuff. But in all honesty, social media overtakes everything in these situations. So we'd put out a kind of call to arms. Anybody that knew, you know, where he was, you know, there's obviously, you know what these things are like. There's mayhem afterwards. There's no phone reception. People get lost. Things happen, and news started to trickle through. Funnily enough, on social media. So that was kind of how we initially knew. It was fully confirmed the next day.
Oh God!
So yeah. It's a really surreal and sort of unimaginable experience, I guess. So
I mean, just seeing her talking to you about it, I can't even believe it's happened to you. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't. It seems like something that's not going to happen. Yeah, so remote.
Until it comes to your doorstep. And
yeah,
then exactly. I think everybody feels like it's something that happens to somebody else, and I think that in a way that's why the Bataclan had such an impact on, say, the music scene and the music community, because all of a sudden it had happened to us, you know, and I think everybody thought, well, that happens at train stations, that happens at, you know, at airports and those kind of things. And then it happened to us in our music community.
Where you feel safe.
Where you feel safe, right?
And accepted.
So, absolutely. And I think that the impact of that was really strong throughout the community. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of people about it over the last few years, and everybody can remember where they were when they heard the news. You know, I was at a gig that night, or I was listening to some music around my friend's house and the news broke, or it came through on my phone. You know, everybody has it's a bit of a JFK moment, you know, that I was there doing this. And I think that impact was really strong. It was really, really huge. It led to a huge wave of support for us from the music community. I mean, Nick was the only Briton that was killed. So for us, we had a lot of support from the British music industry, but he toured worldwide. So we had, we had messages coming in from all over the world.
I was going to say,
it was incredible.
I was talking to a friend of mine named Eddie Meehan.
I know Eddie really well, right?
Eddie, I went to university with him.
No way.
Yes, yes, I went to
Nick
university.
and Eddie were close, really close.
Yeah, I saw Eddie. I mean, now it's coming up on almost a year in September.
Right.
But he and I were talking, and he's like, "Oh, I'd love for you to do some stuff for me in London." He's like, "Well, the person that did it was lost." I'm like, "Who was gone?" And I'm like, "Who was it?" And he said, "It was Nick Alexander." I was just like, "Fucking hell, dude!"
Yeah, that's incredible. Oh, that was an amazing link up. Yeah.
But he's a good egg. But yeah, that was shocking. And I had in my younger years, I'd worked with Josh Homme in Queens of the Stone Age.
So,
and just seeing him on TV talking about it, it's like you said. I mean, it could have been me. Like, how many times did I get on tour with them? Yeah, exactly.
Us, you know, and it was a really. I think the shockwaves, obviously, for us were massive. But I think, the ripples from those things spread far and wide. But in the music community, it really spread far and wide. And for us, we got a lot of messages from artists that Nick had worked with, management, crew, fans, people that bought a shirt from him, and that was a huge wave of support. It was really massive for us. And I think we really wanted, or I particularly wanted, to really harness some of that feeling and do something with it. It seemed like a waste to not, it was so huge. I don't know what happens after these things, because the shockwave kind of just dissipates and we go back to normal.
So how did you not get so angry? Because obviously you're angry, but
Well, I'm not.
You what?
I'm not.
How have you not? Like, it seems like it'd be so easy for it to turn into ugly things. How have you not gone that way, do you think?
I'm not that kind of person for a start, but I think I didn't feel angry. I felt that we needed to honour and respect and protect Nick's legacy. He wasn't an angry person. Nick was a really individual kind of guy. One of his friends posted on Facebook something after he was killed, sort of saying, dear brave terrorists, you should, if you think that's bravery, you should try walking through Colchester in a crushed velvet suit. We grew up in an army town, right? Every Friday night, my brother would walk through town with his long hair, his crushed velvet suit, and his winkle pickers, while the army dudes were around giving him all sorts of shit. And he just was his own person. It would have done no good to him for him to be represented with anger and hatred, and it was really important to steer away from anything that would be unproductive and disrespectful to him, I guess, in a way, And I don't think it helps anybody move forward with anything either. But it's just...
Do people ask you that a lot, Zoe?
They do, and I don't have an off-pat or a strict answer for it.
I'm sorry to ask you things I already asked before.
No, it's fine. And I just don't feel it, and I feel that actually, if we can take this really horrible... A lot of it sounds quite cheeseballism, but I think if we can take this one awful thing and turn it into 100 good things, then you regain the power. It's about regaining power and control over a situation. When that power and control is taken away from you, like that, by somebody else, your greatest strength is to take the power back. And we take the power back by counteracting it. Not being the same as it. You can't, there's a negative and a positive balance in those things, and we have to be the positive balance, and that's all.
So you're getting all these emails, messages, great posts from friends, and you're just like, I have all this energy, I don't want to let it dissipate.
Loads of energy, exactly that.
So was it you? Was it your family? Like, how did Peaceful Noise come about?
My family is just my parents and I now, so Nick was my only sibling. We knew pretty early on we wanted to do something which represented him. We wanted to set up a charity, we wanted to do something good, but you're in this strange space where your head's in a million places. I want to do this, I want to do that. Have very strange energies around you, but there's things that have to happen, process, procedure, and it wasn't right to do something straight away, like a week later, It didn't feel right for us. We needed to work out where we were at, what was happening. With any kind of death abroad, especially in a police investigation, there's a lot of process and procedure that has to be gone through. So, these things take time, and we needed to find out where we were really at to let the ground, kind of let the dust settle for a bit. So about maybe June, May of the following year of 2016, the idea of maybe we could do a gig was hatching in my mind. We were coming up to the year's anniversary in November. There was official commemorations in Paris, which were rightly, pretty somber and ceremonial. But alongside that, we wanted to do something which really harnessed that energy that I was speaking about, and to really put it into something that represented not only Nick, because there was another 88 people that died there, and they were all young, beautiful music lovers that were having a good time. And Nick would never have wanted to be perceived as a victim. He was quite a strong dude, and he didn't like a lot of mourning. He's a bit like, get on with it, very pragmatic. And so, ceremony aside, wanted to do something that represented him, represented everybody else that was there. So live music seemed like the obvious thing. He'd worked 15 years in the live music industry. And so I put a few feelers out from contacts for him and contacts from some previous jobs that I'd had in the industry, and the response was really positive. I think the first person that said yes was Frank Turner, who was actually a friend of Nick's. They'd kind of worked some very early gigs together, being young and standing next to each other at desks and that kind of thing, and stayed friends and kind of running to each other at festivals like you do. So Frank was like, yeah, absolutely, I will 100% do it. The next person was Gaz Coombs, who Nick was a huge Supergrass fan. I took him to see Supergrass when he was 14. He got drunk, he was sick. A love affair was born with Supergrass. It's forever. So, you know, we had really similar music tastes. And I'm 7...
Excellent taste.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's right. I love Supergrass.
Thank you. So I'm 7 years older than him. So I kind of dragged him through my musical taste. You know, it's like you steal your older siblings' records.
Were you a Britpopper?
I was an old Britpopper. He was he was teenage Britpopper. I was an early 20s Britpopper. But yeah, I mean, it was an incredible time, right? And we're from Colchester, where Blur are from. We were riding the crest of a wave. So it's...
so jealous.
Amazing time. Oh. Yeah, you weren't here, right?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, man, it was great.
This is different podcasts, but I used to dress British and go
Did
to
you
a
have an
British
Adidas
club.
tracksuit?
I did, and I also, I think my favorite thing when I tell people this, I'm like, I wore white eyeshadow, because I thought that's what British people did.
Yeah.
I just
some fake bad teeth.
That's right.
So it's like, yeah. No, it was cool. I mean, it was great. We loved music. We gigged together a lot, you know, going to gigs together. It was a great thing.
Were your parents into music, Zoe?
Yeah, well, my dad had his own mobile disco.
Did
receptions,
he?
bar mitzvahs, not a problem. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
And that was back in the vinyl day, right? So my dad would go out and buy the top 40 every week and play the top 40 to check all the vinyls were okay every Sunday night after he'd bought all the records, right? So we grew up with that, you know, and always having music in the house. Nobody plays instruments in our family, bizarrely, but they're big giggers, my parents. And then I worked in the industry. I got Nick into the industry.
What did you do? What were your early...
So I did merchandise, right? So I did merchandise, and Nick used to sell programs for me. So I did merchandise for about 10 years, got him into it he was about 16, so he could get into V Festival and sell programs. And
dream.
Living the dream. He loved music and money. It was like the absolute dream.
How did you start doing that? Like, do you remember?
The same way as I've done absolutely everything in my life. Somebody phoned me and said, we need some help with this. Will you help us out? And I said yes, and then I stay there for 10 years because they can't get rid of me. But I just fudging it along the way, pretending I have qualifications and things. It's the same for every job I've ever held.
So you're like the herpes, if you would.
I am, darling. I am. And we're going nowhere. Yeah. But yeah, so... We did a lot, music was kind of our thing. Whenever he was in town with a band, I'd go, or my parents would go. They've been to see, Alice in Chains, they've been to see Saxon, they've been to a lot of gigs, my parents, that you generally wouldn't expect to see a couple of 60-year-olds at, but they're still bang into it. So yeah, it was a real big thing for all of us, and so that was what we needed to do. And once the wheels had started, once Gaz had said yes, obviously, then... We did it, and I think it took about...
Did you ever put a show on before, Zoe?
No, I'd never put a show on, but I had worked... My oldest friend in the world started Bestival. So I had some good contacts. No, Robbie's business partner, Ziggy. Okay. So they worked together. Ziggy and John are a couple, Robbie and Josie, obviously. They're the 4 partners in Bestival. So... Very luckily, I have a lot of very willing, very good, very kind friends who gave their time and talents to make it happen, and it turned into a reality. And it's still, I have to say, is surreal to me now when I look at the pictures of it being outside the Shepherd's Bush Empire saying Peaceful Noise sold out, and it kind of still gives me a bit of a wow, we did that kind of thing. But it was an incredible night, and it sold out to 2,200, I guess it is.
What was it like going in there? Like when you walk up to the venue,
you
see the sold out thing. Yeah. What was that? Were you with your mom and dad at that point?
No, I was. Yeah, it was insane, and it was. Show days are just manic, aren't they? So you never get a time to reflect, which is probably why it kind of hits a bit later. You look at the pictures and think
you don't remember sometimes. Yeah.
Right. So. And there was quite a lot of news coverage because it was the year's anniversary, a bit of some BBC News, ITV News and stuff. So I was just running from pillar to post. But it was amazing. And my parents were obviously there, but, don't look at me. not allowed to talk to me. But yeah, it was an incredible achievement, and we got a really massive response from it that I wasn't expecting, to be honest, because it was quite personal. It's hard to see outside it, and it's hard to look at it objectively and go, what did we achieve here? To analyse it afterwards like you would another show, another, tour, event. You don't really get that sort of post-gig analysis that you might do when you're slightly more detached from something. But we had good reviews, and then on top of that, the personal response from people saying, I was there, it was incredible, what an amazing night, this kind of thing. You're going to do it again, though, aren't you? You're going to do it again. So I was like, I don't know, because it nearly killed me.
Yeah.
It's, I've got 2 young kids. I was trying to talk to band management, putting chicken nuggets in the oven, with my hand over their mouth, that kind of thing, just thinking this will all come together, it will be fine. Second time around, it's harder. It's the difficult second album, I suppose. It's a difficult second gig.
So at what point did you decide to do the second one?
I decided probably in the January I was going to give it a go and see if there was any traction. But I'm quite last minute. We were kind of going along and things were plotting. Then Manchester happened. And it was sort of unbelievable that it had happened again. And, in this country. So I shelved it for a bit because I didn't want to be seen to be hijacking that in any way, or approaching artists going, yeah, but what about us though? But look, this happened as well, because it's inappropriate. So I shelved it for a bit and waited to see whether it was still the right thing to do. Maybe come August, September.
You waited that long?
Yeah, again, yeah. So
what made you decide then to do it? Because obviously we had Manchester, then we have London Bridge.
Yeah.
So in a way, I could see you almost being like, fuck it, it's just too much. Is that kind of what it was? Like you have to. What made you decide?
Yeah, because it's sort of more needed now than ever, I think. Peaceful Noise became about more than the Bataclan. It became about Manchester and London Bridge and Westminster and Brussels. And the feeling that it gave people of being together. I think Fran Healy opened the first show. And he gave this speech kind of saying, there are no strangers at a gig, we're all in the band. And that really resonated because it's that commonality of standing in a room with 2,000 strangers with your arm around them singing the same words. Right? That's so powerful. And that is powerful in every culture. It's not just rock, pop, Western culture, any culture you go to across the world. There's something about that bringing together. People use it to heal. There was or just look at the recent Manchester memorials. People were standing in a square singing an Oasis song to help heal themselves. It was their natural reaction to go to music. And I think it really galvanised that feeling for people. And I thought, I spoke to a few people who kind of said we need this more than ever, to stand together. The amazing thing after Bataclan happened, and I think, again, it was one of those things, was that the music industry got up off its knees overnight and bands played the next day and ticket holders went to the shows. And they were all frightened, but they went, And I think in response to that, we have to keep doing it. You have to keep going out and going to those shows. And the fact that you can come together and have a little remember, but also have a really great time and just be with people, be in the moment, celebrate the fact we're all together, that, is really something that felt very needed last year, and eventually Peaceful Noise will move away from Bataclan. It will become more about that solidarity, about that being together, that standing together, and using, our collective voice for change and for good, hopefully. And that music charity event marketplace, I'm sure it's a really crowded marketplace. There's a lot of charities doing a lot of great stuff, and a gig is a great way to raise funds because it's one night and ticket revenue is quite high, and if you can do it right with low overheads, then you can do like a big fundraising kind of shebang in one go. So bands get asked a lot to do a lot for free all the time, and it's hard to kind of jostle for space in that marketplace a bit. I guess for most bands of a middling profile, even getting themselves together is about 10 grand, you know, once you bring in all their costs, a bit of rehearsal time and that kind of thing. But we're very stripped down. I mean, it's kind of the nature of the show is that it's quite stripped down, it's quite short sets. So, and I think it still resonates with people, with artists. And hopefully we can grow that into something else. I'd like to take it, you know, long-term visions. I'd love to kind of take Peaceful Noise around the UK. I'd like to do a bit in Scotland and a bit in Wales as well. I'd like to go up north a bit with it. And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a rock gig. A rock gig's just my natural genre, but, you know, it could be a DJ set, it could be a chamber orchestra, you know. It's not about the genre, it's about the collective. As we move up to maybe 10 years of the Bataclan, maybe plan something. Crossing over the channel, not sure yet.
Have you? So how is A Peaceful Noise connected to the Nick Alexander Memorial Trust?
So we kind of launched them both concurrently. So the Nick Alexander Memorial Trust is the charity arm of Peaceful Noise, I guess, and Peaceful Noise is the main fundraising vehicle for the trust. When Nick was killed, a touring colleague of his in LA set up a GoFundMe. Unbeknownst to us, I didn't know this guy, and then somebody sent me a link, as I said to you before, we were on total kind of media blackout. Somebody sent me a link to this page saying, look at this, and, you know, it raised a crazy amount of money. So it was quite overwhelming, you know, bands, people like Panic at the Disco, people were like donating money to this fund just to kind of help our family. And so we didn't really, there's a huge amount of costs when something like that happens. You know, funerals are expensive.
I can't imagine.
Clearing someone's apartment is expensive.
Yeah.
So we had money it enabled us to have a bit of flexibility. We could pay his rent for a couple of months, you know, because he rented his apartment, so we didn't have to clear it out straight away, and, you know, storage for his staff, and my dad's self-employed, so gave him a bit of a breather, you know. So there's little bits of it's an incredible thing, actually. You see these GoFundMes and you don't realise the tangible effect that they have on people's lives, you know. But there was money left after all of these things, so we wanted to do something good with it, so we decided that we would use it to start a charity, which we knew we would want to do something musical connected with it. So Nick's kind of two things, I guess, that he really loved music, but his job was really social, because when you're doing merch, you're like the front line for the band. You are that person that's talking as their representative effectively to their fans. So it's a really personable job. And so kind of connecting the music and people thing together. So we thought we would try and give grants to small community groups, charities across the UK to buy musical instruments, musical equipment, but particularly kind of concentrating on more disadvantaged sectors of society rather than your school orchestra type of thing, you know, things where it's really having a tangible impact on lives. And we've given out, I think, maybe 11 grants in the year that we've been running. So,
that's so good.
We set it up not knowing if we'd get one response. I mean, I was like, I don't even know if there's a need for this, but it feels like it's the direction to go in, but let's see, you know. And so when the first letter came through for a grant, I was just made up. It was incredible. And so, yeah, it's been a good process, sort of seeing what the needs are out there and helping to kind of steer the trust in the direction of where you see the need, I guess. We've done a couple of projects recently, one called Drumworks in Lewisham, which provides, they provide drum circles for unaccompanied refugee minors arriving in the UK.
Oh, wow. Which
is a really intense and amazing project, because when there's not a commonality of language, you know, I drum a beat to you, you drum it back to me, we're having a conversation and we can take it from there, you know, those kind of things. And it was really, they've done a couple in the East End of London already, and they've now launched this one in Lewisham, and they've had incredible results. So we bought the drums for that, for them to get the project off the ground. We've did a couple of things with hard-to-reach youth who are excluded from school, but that are finding their voice and their way and kind of their employability through learning music, technology, teching, lights, production, which is great, and right through to dementia patients, music therapy equipment for dementia patients. So
wow.
it's a huge gamut of stuff, which is great, you know, it's really nice.
I have to say, I mean, this is audio, obviously, but your face lights up when you're talking about these projects. You know, and
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really amazing to be able to have a tangible effect on things, you know, and to be able to say, I don't want, and you know, none of us, my parents included, want Nick to be defined by what happened to him. Want him to be defined by these things, you know, because that was just something that happened to him. It didn't define him. You know, he wasn't that person. He's not that guy. He was a huge, multicolored, you know, it's a big texture of a person, and you need to kind of put that back out rather than be kind of trapped in that
one moment,
that dark night, you know, which is.
And what's so interesting too, and I mean, it's funny because I think about this all the time. Like, here's someone you know, you love, you've known him his whole life, but it's almost like he touches so many people that you know,
yeah,
but you don't know.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that part like?
Amazing. That's an incredible thing. Yeah, it was. It's not a huge name drop, but he did a tour with Scissor Sisters, and Anna Matronic became quite a good friend of his. They just generally like. She would come up and admire his fine mane of hair every day, and you know that's how they got on. And afterwards, she contacted me, and she was saying about that exact same thing. I mean, even like the exchanging of money between two hands. How many people you've actually physically touched? Going on tour in that thing, you know, or I've saved that poster for you, where you've had a real tangible impact on somebody's happiness for that night, you know, that kind of thing. And it's huge. And actually, although social media isn't, you know, it's a double-edged sword for that purpose, where people could send that to us, was an incredible thing. Photos you'd never have seen, people that you would never have known that he had changed their happiness for a moment, and that's a wonderful thing.
And even like, it doesn't have to be like I mean, it's great, and that just shows what an awesome, beautiful person he was. That it could be a massive rock star, but it could also be some kid, like you said, that saved a poster, and something that maybe for Nick was not even, and he would not even remember it, but for someone else, it was a really special night. Like, that's really cool.
Yes, yeah.
Are you worried as time goes by that people are going to forget about that night and that event?
I'm not worried. I think it's just natural that happens, you know. It's we have to. We can't dwell in the past, and especially it's not healthy to dwell on the dark things that happen in life all the time. I think, you know, it will come up. There will always be anniversaries. Things will happen. The majority of anniversaries and commemorations are obviously always in France. So, you know, we're a bit of an outpost to an effect. So for here, it's more difficult to keep it alive. But I think you know, having launched Peaceful Noise quite quickly afterwards, I guess, you know, just the year afterwards, that it will keep, even if it's not Nick specifically, just the concept of the effect it had on the music community, I think will still roll with people. We have, you know, we've recently done an event with Frank Turner. We work with him a lot, and he has a Nick Alexander stage at his festival. He puts on a 4-day festival in the Roundhouse every year, and so we have the stage for which a new music stage, which is incredible because it's Nick's name being associated with the future, not the past. You know, these young bands who may not necessarily in 5 years know who he is, what that name is, but it's just an association, you know, and it's lovely to have that forward-looking vibe going along with it.
I was going to say, I mean, like, not that it's more important, but in a way that sounds like it'll be more authentically who he was in life, you know?
Absolutely,
and
completely.
And the fact that they'll just take the Nick Alexander stage, that it just rolls off the tongue. It'll just be a name.
Exactly.
So it's more important than ever in a lot of ways. That's so great.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to donate to the Nick Alexander Memorial Trust, are there ways they can do that?
They can go to our Facebook page, which is at Nick Alexander MT, and there's a donate button on there via PayPal. And you can get in touch with me through there, or our Peaceful Noise page as well. So, you know, always up for any kind of fundraising ideas or any projects as well that you think, hey, maybe these guys would be eligible for a grant, and get in touch with us, and we'll take it from there.
What about volunteers or interns? Do you need or want those?
At the moment, we're good. I mean, we had a partnership with BIMM from the first show, which was brilliant. They supplied a load of volunteers for us. With Keith, right. Keith. So Keith was an old friend of mine from festival days, and he became our Peaceful Noise production manager as he was lecturing at BIMM, and said, could my students get involved? And yeah, it was great. I mean, all hands on deck in those kind of things. So when there's show day, volunteers are always brilliant. So, you know, anybody who wants to kind of come along and help hand out leaflets, or some of those boring getting dressing rooms ready kind of jobs is always welcome. Last year, though, I did put a couple of volunteers to do the washing up, so be warned.
But that's just as important. That's why I think some people,
it needed doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, some of those things are just as important.
Absolutely.
Please tell me you still have the suit that Nick wore.
Oh man, yeah. The crushed velvet suit.
I was gonna say,
it's still there.
what
The winkle
color?
pick is purple.
Oh yes.
Is there any?
Oh yes. Did he have it
yeah.
specially made for him?
He bought it in Paris.
Oh,
so
of course
I
he did. Yeah, of course
No,
he
I
did.
did.
Of course he did.
But yes, no, it was brilliant. He's legendary for his suits.
It's fashion and hair.
Fashion and hair.
Apparently.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna lie. One more thing. What was Nick's favorite band? Do you think, or too many?
Oh man, Nick's favourite band. That would be. I mean, ultimately, his favourite band would be the Beatles. But he was a huge Britpopper. He stalked Jarvis Cocker for about 20 years. But Nick's favourite track was a Supergrass song called Man Size Rooster. Not one
No,
of their
was
biggest,
it?
Yeah. But he had set up a little kind of his production company when he used to DJ locally was Man Size Productions. And I told Gaz this. And he practiced it. He hadn't played it for 15 years. He practiced it and played it at Peaceful Noise acoustically on the guitar, which was that's the measure of the man right there.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy, really lovely. Yeah,
That's
need
so
to get
cool.
him back actually.
Yeah, I was going to say the lineup this year still seems.
Gaz
I was going to say yeah, and he has a new record out too.
He has
so,
an amazing album. Yeah,
there we go.
That will be my next purchase.
Okay, yes. Okay, we're gonna keep talking, so I'm just gonna say goodbye now.
Bye.
So yeah, thank you so much, Zoe.
my
So
pleasure.
great, so
Thank you,
great.
thank
And
you,
just one more
thank
time, the website where people can find.
Okay, so facebook.com/ we're Nick Alexander MT or NickAlexanderMemorialTrust.com.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.